Hey YouTube, how you guys doing? Welcome back to Apple Weekly number 15. There's a number of stories, so let's not waste any time and get straight into it. The first major story, or one of the major stories for me, is two events coming up in 2011. These are rumours, but obviously going by Apple's schedules in previous times, there's going to be two Apple events next year. One's going to be in January 2011, and that's going to go over the iPad. It kind of makes sense because the iPods have a yearly refresh, the iPhones have a yearly refresh, and why is the iPad going to be different? And specifically, the iPad is due to get a retina display, which I really want. It's going to be lighter. That's one of the things when I still today, when I hold the iPad, it's not as light as I expected it to be. I thought, okay, Apple's going to have this area covered. But it was just a wee bit too heavy, and especially when you stick one of these on. By the way, one of my favourite cases is the Zugu iPad case, which I've yet to review, but this thing is awesome. But the problem with this case and every other iPad case is as soon as you put it on, it adds bulk onto it. And I can see them going thinner and lighter when talking about the iPad, because if they can make the MacBook Air so thin and lightweight, then why can they not make such a low hardware cost or device even thinner or lighter? I mean, this is a full-blown OS, quality graphics card, Core 2 Duo chip and everything. If they can make it so thin and lightweight, then there really is no excuse of not making the iPad thinner and lighter. The second event of 2011 is going to be held in April, and it's going to focus on the Pro lineup, i.e. the MacBook Pros and Final Cut Studio. Now the MacBook Pros are they're mostly on a yearly life cycle as well. They sometimes, or they most recently got bumped, very tiny bump. It wasn't nothing major. It was a tiny processor bump a month ago when the new MacBook Airs were released. A very tiny bump. The major bump was in April 2010, where they added the whole i5 and i7 processors and so on. So it's fair to say April 2011 is going to be the next one. There's apparently, and this is what I really want, no optical drive. I don't want it, I never use it. And I'd rather they put a new battery in it, or more battery life in it, or a better graphics card in it. God knows what, but I just want it removed. Heck, I've got an Xbox 360 drive that I use for the MacBook Air when I do need to use it, and the only time I used it was to install Windows, and that's it. It's fair to say it's also still going to be on the i5, the i7, probably different clock speeds, more RAM perhaps, thinner and lighter, and the backlit keyboard, of course. They probably won't make it too thin, because the moment they do that, they're really going to be stepping into the MacBook Air category. So I don't think they'll make it really thin like the MacBook Airs are, because then the sales for MacBook Airs would presumably go down because it's kind of overlapping. And I think come April it's going to be really streamlined. It's going to be three distinctive lines: the MacBooks, MacBook Pros, and MacBook Airs, or combine one of these two together. Because that's what Apple is about at the end of the day, making things simple for the consumer. The second story of this week is Microsoft retail stores, and they're not doing too well. Basically, because Microsoft don't actually make the hardware, it's a bit difficult for them to kind of challenge Apple in this category of retail, because Apple does everything from the hardware to software. It's got that kind of really good brand image and kind of uniqueness about it. Not everyone stocks the products. It's quite strict as well as to their supply chains. Whereas Microsoft, every Tom, Dick, Harry and their dog is stocking Microsoft software and Microsoft laptops. Microsoft laptops which are made by Toshiba, Dell, Acer, Asus, and the list continues. So the LA Times done a kind of a test, and they observed two stores, Microsoft and an Apple store, in the same shopping centre, and 19 people walked out of the Apple store with a purchase, whereas on the other hand, 3 people purchased from the Microsoft retail store. But that's not really hardcore scientific evidence, but it was just an observation made over a 30-minute period. But again, I don't see why someone would want to go to the Microsoft store. Perhaps for the Kinect, but even then, there's so many retailers stocking it. There's nothing kind of unique about the retail store. They've got the same kind of copycat mentality of Apple, fun. The employees are jumping up and down, cool t-shirts, but there's nothing that is kind of out of stock. There's nothing that is really wanting people to buy. But leave your comments below. Have you ever walked into a Microsoft retail store? What is it like? What is the experience like? And I'll leave the link of this article in the description below, and all the stories if you want to kind of chase them up. Apple has went ahead and purchased HP's land in Cupertino, making Apple the biggest kind of brand or company in that Cupertino estate, which is kind of cool. makes sense. Apple's growing, and I really want to kind of visit Cupertino one day. Hopefully that'll come true when I go to Macworld 2011, which is looking most probable. But it's interesting, and it's kind of funny at the same time that HP are having to kind of move out, and HP kind of being a competitor to Apple. I didn't think they would kind of do that from like a brand perception side. You know, why would you want to let people see that, okay, we're moving out, Apple's taking over the land and making Apple the biggest thing in that park or business park, whatever it is. But interesting times ahead, especially 2011. It's all going to be about the Mac, the Lion, iPad 2, and God knows any other surprise that Steve Jobs has for us in store in 2011. A survey done by ChangeWave, and you can see the chart on your screen, shows that the MacBooks are going pretty much nowhere, other than they are exploding in terms of sales and shifting of stock. 36% of respondents to this survey said they were planning to get a MacBook, be it a MacBook Air Pro, within the next 90 days, and this is the highest number they've seen ever. And come April 2011, what I was just talking about before, the new MacBook Pros, getting the flash drives, no optical drives, making it more lightweight, it will further push this figure up, no doubt. And with the schedule of line in 2011 as well, summer of 2011, the Mac, I think, is just getting started, to be honest. And last but not least, Apple is kind of stealing employees from BlackBerry or RIM. And I guess it kind of makes sense in terms of Apple's point of view. BlackBerry or RIM kind of holds the largest enterprise market, business customers wise, and recently a lot of businesses, top Fortune 500 companies, Citibank, a lot of top businesses are shifting to iPhones specifically, and I guess it kind of makes sense if Apple want to hold or kind of tap into that market, obviously, make it bigger, more successful. So Apple's approaching senior employees and saying, hey, we'll give you double the money, or I guess that's what's kind of going on. Obviously Apple's probably offering them more money to come on board to Apple. Next 12 months are going to be very interesting for the iPhone. Come June-ish, or even possibly early, we'll see the iPhone 5 and how that's going to change the world again. But guys, that's it for this week. That's all the major stories covered. Remember, you can watch this podcast through iTunes on the way to work or general travelling, and you're kind of bored and you want to say, hey, I want to watch or catch up on my Apple Weekly. Well, now you can. Remember, you can also join me on iGlaswegian.com, twitter.com/i6glasswegian, and if you've got any kind of funny stories in relation to Apple, do email me on iGlaswegian@gmail.com, or send me a tweet or a message through Facebook and let me know about this funny story, and I'll be sure to cover it in the next week's episode. But guys, thanks for watching. Cheers.